Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a totally unplanned, unexpected, unvetted, mostly, live stream. I am currently full of post-Thanksgiving holiday cheer, or pepper jack, depending on the case. Depending on the case, yeah, I'm a little off my rocker at present. But that'll probably be more entertaining than if I was completely sober. Because I was looking around for subject matter for the potential Sunday stream tomorrow. Not even potential, but inevitable. And I came across this video. And I watched 20 seconds. Like exactly. I paused it on 20 seconds because in the first 20 seconds, the speaker in this video says something so ridiculous, so antithetical to the principles that were set down in the civil rights movement of the 1960s and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Even though by his accent, I can only assume he's not American and he's not talking about American hiring practices and such, but just on the principle, just on the virtue of what the whole idea behind civil rights is supposed to be. He says and implies things that are just so opposite and so casually. I couldn't help myself. And I just got inspired like, well, you know what? Why wait for Sunday? Why wait for tomorrow morning? I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet for tomorrow's show. I'm still going to do tomorrow's show. Just not sure yet what subject it'll be. I really got to change up my subject matter occasionally, once in a while. I've been doing DEI stuff and restorative justice and goofy TEDx stuff for a long time. I got to try something different occasionally, just as an experiment. Not sure what yet. There are other things that I'm interested in, right? Right, like role-playing games, like sci-fi, like horror. I've been meaning to, and I've been wanting to, run another tabletop RPG for several years now. And I keep thinking I'll do that somehow on a live stream. Don't know how yet. I keep thinking about it. But that's all beside the point. Who's joining me for this ambush surprise? Where the hell is my mind? Live stream. Mirai Vegeta, good morning, or afternoon as the case may be. The Magister, Gunfox61, Tall Person, Non-Vitae Rex, Robert Pincus, Keevernam, Spoonie the Rebel, and that's, Attack Alpaca. Faithless, good afternoon, good afternoon. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, I was looking for Sunday stream material. I came across this. I watched 15, 20 seconds of it, and my mind was blown. So I thought I'd share it with you and see where it goes, because it lasts all of 11 minutes. And so let's find out. Let's find out together what this brilliant individual has to say. I think I have everything set up correctly. My inebriation may say otherwise. So I'm going to start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then I'll introduce you to what just blew my mind. I guess it shouldn't have. All things considered these days, everything I've seen to this point, but still, every individual is an individual.
Firstly, let me share the 4 key takeaways that I hope you will get from this talk.
Okay, the 4 key takeaways. Did you guys hear that okay? I didn't have a chance. Well, not that I didn't have a chance. I didn't take the time to boost the audio on this, so hopefully you can hear it. It's not probably the loudest, and thankfully I don't have the background music playing that would cover it up. Let's see. Sounds okay, says Keeverdam. Oh, hey, Gorilla Stream, says Asan. Gorilla? Is Harambe around here somewhere? And Keldrig, good afternoon. Sounds a bit low, but understandable. Okay, well, I apologize for that. Probably should have boosted this ahead of time. Do I take the time to do that? Nah. Okay. Anyway, let's muddle through, shall we? Well, thankfully, there are subtitles. So it does help a little bit if you're watching live and not just listening.
Software that redacts diversity indicators has been seen as a solution to unconscious bias. This is a poor solution.
Okay, so the idea is that you are a HR manager, right? Or you're a hiring manager, whatever. And you're trying to have as unbiased a process as possible in recruitment and specifically hiring. Okay. So you use software that redacts identifiers, names, anything that might otherwise indicate a person's aesthetic particulars in order that you give as fair and as unbiased a process as possible, right? Okay, that's the premise. Software that redacts diversity indicators. What are diversity indicators? Aesthetics. That's it. I'm not even going to guess at this point. It's just aesthetics. Race, gender, ethnicity, orientation, disability, right? As though those things should even be on an application to begin with. But let's say that they are. Let's say there's anything on there that could otherwise indicate such. Okay, software that redacts these things in order to eliminate unconscious bias. This is a poor solution, says our speaker. Okay, why is that?
Statistically speaking, underrepresented groups make up the minority of any given talent pool, so may not end up being well represented in a blind resume shortlist.
Okay, so statistically speaking, if the population demographics in regards to race, ethnicity, etc., are uneven, then the odds that your talent pool, the people applying for the job, are going to make up that demographic or that range of demographics that you're looking to hire because you care about aesthetics and not actual skill or education or other personal merits. Well, obviously, just on odds, you're not going to end up with the result you want because you don't care about the quality of the person first and foremost. You care about the aesthetic of the person first and foremost. Just listen. Again, this is exactly where I stopped. This is exactly where I stopped when I started watching this. Listen to what this guy is saying. Eliminate all the aesthetic factors from your consideration process in hiring someone. Well, because of the odds of demographic population numbers, you're probably not going to end up with diverse candidates. Okay, so taking away anything that could contribute to unconscious bias, that's not good. We have to have bias. All right, so everything from this point onward, I have no idea what he's going to say. But if this is the windup, I can't wait to hear the pitch.
Diversity indicators are required to adequately populate shortlists with qualified diversity candidates.
Oh, qualified diversity candidates. Populate the shortlists with qualified diversity candidates. So you want discrimination. You want racial and or gender and or orientation and or whatever. You want to have those filters. Now, again, this guy is probably, I'm again, just assuming from the accent. I haven't done any research on who he represents or anything, but guessing from the accent, he's not in America. Or maybe he is. I don't know. But I don't doubt that this philosophy, this, let's say, prejudice against anonymous application processes carries over to places within the borders of the United States. All right, so so diversity indicators are required. You need them. You need to know the person's skin color. You need to know their gender. You need to know their particulars, which says nothing about their merits, but everything about the statistics and the aesthetics of your workforce. Okay.
A proposed solution, rather than turning a blind eye, is to actively engage in hiring audits run by the D&I team.
Listen to this. Rather than turn a blind eye, actively engage in hiring audits. Do you have enough of the right color person in your talent pool? Are you actively assessing the quality of your candidates on the basis of what they look like, what they are, This is amazing. Who does this guy represent again? I don't even know. Is this a company that operates in the United States? I don't know. But this is a public testimonial, a public declaration that employing discriminatory practices in your hiring is a desired outcome. I tell you what, I've said it before, and I will say it until I see some change in the grand scheme of things. There is so much active evidence of civil rights violations here and across the frickin' planet by companies these days that any civil rights attorney worth their salt would be dying to have at hand to pull a lawsuit against some of these guys. I mean, look at this. Again, I don't know if this guy represents an American company or an American interest, but if any way, shape, or form he does work with American companies, I don't know. I don't know. I said it on my, I think the last stream or the stream before. If there is some kind of loophole, if there's some kind of legal precedent that makes this kind of thing okay in employment practices, I would love to hear it. And I will be the first person. I will immediately do a live stream confessing my ignorance and my stupidity for the last 6 years when I see representatives and companies and advocates saying similar things as this, and me thinking that somehow this doesn't jive with the law. Okay, but anyway, a proposed solution, rather than turning a blind eye, is to actively engage in hiring audits. Okay, so be very intentional in your discrimination, you mean? Okay.
Let's get started.
Okay.
D&I hiring has been a hot topic for a few years now and long overdue. In our attempt to try and level the playing field, we seem to have decided that our unconscious biases are corrupting the process of fair candidate selection.
Well, that's the idea, right? I mean, you guys, and I speak in the sort of royal term, you guys claim that you need to eliminate unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is bad, right? Because obviously everybody's racist or everybody's sexist. There's too many of this kind of person in the C-suite. So obviously all these companies are inherently ist in some way, shape, or form, right? Okay, but now it sounds like you're proposing that you need conscious bias to achieve the ends you want, specifically looking for and hiring people on the basis of what they look like. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Why do you sneak up on me, and why doesn't YouTube tell me? Well, on the first question, because I'm an insensitive jerk sometimes, and I just get the urge to start spouting off stuff, and I have an outlet for it. That's part of it. On the second one, I don't know. You got to take it up with Susan Wojcicki. If you're subscribed, if you've hit the bell button and you've said you want all notifications, as far as I know, that's all the options they give you. If they don't alert you otherwise, I don't know. The other thing might be, given the short notice, maybe my going live didn't hit the alert function or requirements. I don't know. But regardless, Matt Barnes, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so anyway, our unconscious biases are corrupting the process of fair candidate selection. Okay, well, define fair. You've just said that anonymous hiring procedures that remove all of the considerations from the information going to HR that might otherwise contribute to unconscious bias, those are gone, but that's bad. Okay.
Yet because of all these unconscious biases, we seem to be adopting recruiting processes that do the exact opposite of what they're meant to be doing.
Oh, what are they meant to be doing? I thought recruiting and employment practices and everything were meant to find the most ideal candidate for the job opening. A candidate that has the education and the skills and the experience that are requisite to fulfilling the needs of the job. Okay, well, if that's not the goal, what is the goal?
There's even technology now that omits information from resumes that may give an idea of age, race, sex, and other potentially discriminatory references.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? If you want to eliminate unconscious bias, you remove those factors from the information being provided to you on the candidate that, legally speaking, could be used as a discriminatory filter, right? You want to be able to say as a company that your process is as free as possible of anything that might violate fair and equal employment practices and laws. So if you have software, if you have a process that filters out all the stuff that is considered to be, legally speaking, persona non grata, right? You can't consider someone on the basis of their gender or their age or their race or their religion or their ethnicity or their country of origin, whatever. Right? If you take all of that stuff out and you give the recruiting supervisors, the HR team, only the bare facts of the individual's, experience and skill set and education and so on, then you have covered yourselves legally. Your liability on violating equal employment opportunity laws is mitigated if someone comes back after the fact and says, oh, you didn't give me the job because of XYZ PDQ. And then you can say, as the company, actually, that's not true because our entire process removes those factors from consideration. That's the idea. That's the idea. But you say that's wrong. Okay. I thank you, Keeverdam. Maybe you sneak up on us because you're part putty tat. Well, you see, I was raised by putty tats. I've told this story before. The day I was brought home from the hospital, my mother and father laid me down on the couch in our living room. There's a picture of this, so I have evidence. And my mother and father, at the time, had two kitty cats, a black cat and a Siamese cat. And they were there before I was. And so I was laid down on the couch, and I was this new thing in the house, and I was wiggling, and little pink thing and a little blue jumpsuit, and the two kitty cats, my brothers, because I grew up with these cats, they both lived to be about 18, 19 years old each by the time they passed away. They came up and they were like, there's something new in the house. And they patted over the couch. And according to my mother and father, they put their little paws up right next to each other on the couch and started sniffing at me. And they both jumped up and circled around my little baby body and then cuddled up against me like yin and yang. And I was raised by cats from that moment onward. There's a picture of me being cuddled by these two cats, my brothers. I was raised by cats, so I have some cat instincts. I also might have a cat personality. Who knows? Thank you, Keeverdam. And thank you, John Migda. Yeet that hate out of your heart, Scribe. I'm trying. Through the power of Pepperjack, I'm attempting to purge myself of my ire, my vitriol. But we're only a minute into an 11-minute thing. What is he going to say next?
They believe that this will reduce unconscious bias.
Yeah.
There are two major problems with this.
Okay.
Firstly, following the resume selection process, candidates go on to get interviewed. So this just shoves the problem of discrimination along to the interview process.
Okay, so you assume then that people are going to be discriminated against simply on the basis of being in the same room with the people they will be working with in the company that they're applying to work with. Okay, so how would you solve for that problem? I mean, these days with remote working, you could probably mitigate some of that if you determine that this particular job doesn't require a physical presence in the office. You could just have a voice on a Zoom call, right? I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But okay, so simply having someone physically in the space is going to contribute to discrimination. All right, so that's problem number one. Well, I've thought of a possible solution number one. What is your solution?
At the interview, it's not like unconsciously prejudiced inclinations turn off. Interviewers don't sit in an interview when a diversity candidate walks in and say, oh, we weren't expecting you. Well, thank goodness our resume selection was blind, as otherwise you may not have come this far.
because obviously every business is racist. Any business that would employ an anonymous blind resume process is obviously racist. So any appearance of someone who you consider to be diverse is at risk of being discriminated against, because obviously HR is automatically racist. Okay. All right. Well, what is your solution to this problem? What are you offering in alternative?
Now you're here, our unconscious prejudice biases have miraculously disappeared. So tell me a bit about yourself.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, diversity requires human intervention when screening resumes to make sure diverse candidates are given the opportunity to make it to the interview shortlist, as they're so underrepresented in the first place.
Okay. Diversity requires human intervention when screening resumes to make sure diverse candidates are given an opportunity to make it to the interview shortlist, as they're so underrepresented. Okay, so your concern is that if I have a blind resume process, but then someone walks in the room and they obviously carry with them their diversity indicators, well, I'm then going to be, by default and reflexively, discriminatory against them because of their diversity indicators. So the way to solve this is to have people intervene when screening resumes to know what the diversity indicators are in the resume process, because the humans screening the resumes will not discriminate any potential candidates on their diversity indicators that they will discriminate against if they're in the same room with them. Did I get that right? Did I understand that correctly? If someone walks in the room, I'm going to be unconsciously or consciously biased against them. But if I just know on a piece of paper those same attributes, well, then it's okay, because then I need to let them in on the basis of those attributes. Whereas if they're already in the door, I would prevent them from getting any further. Did I understand that? Did I miss something? I am decidedly inebriated right now. So if I've missed some chain of logic there, by all means, let me know in the chat or in the comments in the future. Okay.
Removing references to diversity indicators, like taking out names at the beginning of a hiring process, leads only to a meritocratic selection process, which is great for the best candidate, but that's not always a pro-diversity solution.
Yes! Yes! Oh, God. Oh, I love it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, high forehead, vaguely Irish man, or perhaps Scottish. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That is, and I'm not being facetious here. I am so glad for that kind of candor. I am so glad for that kind of clarity. We don't want a process of merit. We don't want a meritorious consideration. No, that is secondary at best. The first consideration, the most important consideration in the hiring process, is diversity, which has nothing to do with merit. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate someone being that clear and candid with what they mean. Because as many of you have seen before on multiple live streams in the past, the couching of language, the obfuscation of intent is so rampant because inherently, I think, and I know I'm just guessing, this is just speculation on my part, I think that deep down, a lot of the people, especially in America, because of our laws and because of our traditions and principles, deep down, they know and they are ashamed of what it is that they're promoting. They know that what they're promoting is antithetical to not only the principles that we've developed in this country over the last 60 years at least, but also legally what we've developed over the last 60 years. Thank you, Derek LaRue, so much. No comment, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I want to say something, especially, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, especially at this particular time of year with the holidays coming up and the holidays already passed. I appreciate, and I want you guys to know this, I appreciate the value of a dollar. I know that every dollar somebody has is a result, for the most part, unless you're, like, just lucky that way, or, you've got some kind of, trust fund or whatever, is likely the result of your labor, right? Whether it's a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes out of your day, you earn that money and you handing it off in support of or an appreciation of anything, whether it's a charity or a product, or in my case, these goofy streams that I do. I really do appreciate it. I don't think of it as just a sort of a sidewise thing, or I don't, take it for granted. I do this even if I wasn't making a buck, because I need the outlet. But I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your generosity, whoever you are, and for whether it's $1 or $10, whatever. I really, really do appreciate it. So I want you to know that. So thank you, Derek, so much. And I hope you have a good Thanksgiving, if you celebrate Thanksgiving. And even if you don't, thank you. Okay, so anyway, that's not always a pro-diversity solution. Yeah, merit, considering someone's ability, their character, their experience, their education. Yeah. But diversity is a completely separate lane. Part of me hopes this guy is a Poe. Part of me hopes this guy is effectively underlining the hypocrisy of the whole situation by making it look like he's actually talking in a professional sense. But then these days, who knows? Anyway, yeah, so merit, never mind. Secondary at best. First and foremost, aesthetics.
For example, let's say you have 200 candidates in an inbox for a job application. Let's say 10 of these are so-called diversity candidates.
No, not so-called. You have called them that. It's not hypothetical. It's not some kind of myth or something. You have made that distinction. Don't prevaricate now. You're doing so well on being clear. Don't start dodging the issue at this point. Come on, dude.
Statistically speaking, if we don't know who those 10 are in the first place, there's a 95% chance they could be missed altogether from the final shortlist of 10 candidates. We have to give the underrepresented groups a fighting chance by making sure they are represented, which means identifying who they are in the first place.
No. You're not talking about who. You're not talking about who. Who indicates individuality, actual identity, right? Narrowing things down to who someone is. No, you're talking about what they are. You don't care about the who. You just told us. You don't care about Robert Plant. You care about the what, not the who. You guys get that? I'm not even like some kind of big rock aficionado or anything, but I at least know that. God, this is depressing.
I just couldn't think of a worse solution.
Yeah. I agree. I can't think of a worse solution to the problems you've cited other than introduce those elements specifically to filter people by before you get to their ability, their merit, their education, their experience. I can't think of a worse solution either, unless you're just trying to turn back the clock 60 some odd years at the very least. I don't know. Again, if this guy's Scottish, and I don't know the history of anti-discrimination laws in the UK or thereabouts, I presume they're at least more recent than 60 years ago. That would be relatively equivalent to what we have in the United States now under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm assuming it's sometime between 1964 and now that the UK established similar, if not effectively duplicative, anti-discrimination laws and hiring practices. Okay. So yeah, you're right. Whether we're talking about the US or the UK, I can't think of a worse solution than what you're suggesting.
Thirdly, the way to reduce a bias is not to just pretend it's not there and cover it up so those who are prejudiced don't see it.
No. The solution is to intentionally introduce a bias in order to achieve the demographic outcome that you decide is ideal. Think about, please, I really hope this is performance art. I really hope that this guy is a Poe. I really do. It is an amazing Poe if it is. If this guy is satirizing the entire DEI process, he's my hero. If he's serious, he's just another in a long litany of crazy people. But at least he's clear about relatively clear.
That's not reducing unconscious bias. That's just reducing exposure to indicators that trigger unconscious biases.
All right, so your solution is to just throw off all the shackles and just say, we have to consider these things. We have to be biased. To hell with unconscious bias, let's be consciously biased, right?
It doesn't reduce unconscious bias in that person. There's a big difference. What is the point in that? Why not just deal with the problem rather than masking the solution?
Okay. Well, you've indicated what your potential solution is. Lay it on us.
In 2022, with diversity hiring being so high on all corporate companies' agendas,
I mean, with budget cuts and everything else, we just did a panel discussion about 2 Sundays ago where they're talking about when it comes down to like tightening the belts at certain corporations, the first thing they look at is their diversity and inclusion programs, because they really have to consider, is there a return on investment worthy of keeping this thing going or funding it as much as we have? But okay, yeah.
With all of the measures in place to rebalance the inequalities that have existed for a long time, we really must consider much better ways of addressing these inequalities.
All right, and what do you suggest?
Companies removing names from resumes implies that without such measures, their recruiters and hiring managers will be out of control with their prejudice biases making choices on their behalf.
Well, you just implied earlier that that is the case. That if someone ends up in the actual interview room physically carrying with them their diversity indicators, that the people there will automatically be prejudiced against them. So, yeah, you've already told us that is the inevitability, right?
Just 3 weeks prior to writing this article, I was having a conversation with an HR tech event promoter who was, I believe, half Jordanian and half Scottish.
Okay, and what do either of those elements have to do with the person? I mean, obviously you care about those things.
He had an Arabic name, and as we were discussing the subject, he mentioned how he did an experiment where he changed his name and applied for jobs and got way more responses.
Okay, so then wouldn't that be evidence towards removing names from the application process, having a blind resume process? I mean, if what he's saying is true, and for the sake of argument, sure, okay, fine. Well, then removing the name is a good thing, right?
I've also read the studies where similar results happened. It would be convenient to use this as the reason to use blind resumes.
Well, not only would it be convenient, it would also be pragmatically logical. If there's any risk that simply the name of the candidate is going to sway a HR person or a hiring manager one way or the other, why not simply remove it? Because it is absolutely irrelevant, right? I mean, when assessing someone's ability and quality for fulfilling a job requirement, what does their name have to do with it? It is doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So you're saying to include the name?
It sounds on paper like a reasonable solution.
Yeah.
However, it's not solving the problem.
How is it not solving the problem?
It's yet another reason why we should be tackling this problem head on.
How is removing the name from the hiring or resume process not tackling the problem head on?
And identifying these individuals through internal audits of the hiring process.
Identifying these individuals. So you want names to be taken into consideration in the hiring process. Am I too drunk for this video?
To those that say, well, we've been using this and it's been really effective.
Uh-huh.
I say, well, that's great. Clearly you have a problem in your company that you have to get to the bottom of.
What? Wait.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
I mean, he probably deserves about 2 or 3 of those to this point, but wait. So, we don't want names in the process because names are potentially an unconscious bias trigger for hiring someone for a position. If we, what the heck was that? Something in my, was that the mirror? I've got this like suction cup mirror in my shower for like, you know, shaving and stuff, and I just heard a crashing noise. I'm assuming that's what that was. I'm gonna go check real quick to make sure so nothing else has suddenly happened. So just, sorry, 1 second. Okay, well, the suction cup on my suction cup mirror decided to give out just then, and it crashed into the bathtub, and that's what that was. If you heard it, I don't think you did, but if you did, that's what that was. That's what distracted me, and I have confirmed that theory, so I can move on now. Okay. Anyway, I forget what I was saying. Anyway, yeah. So names might bias someone in the hiring process based on a presumption of racial or ethnicity on the grounds of the name that you're seeing. So you want to remove the names to remove that bias, but removing the name also just puts that candidate back into the overall pool of candidates. And because of population demographics, the odds that that person will be picked at all is reduced. And so the way to increase the chances that that person's going to be picked is to keep their name present and visible because it's a diversity indicator, and we want to put diversity as the first filter before we consider merit. Is that what I'm to understand? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying.
What you've identified is a symptom, not the cause.
Uh-huh.
One or more people in your hiring team are clearly in need of some training, or maybe even being let go.
What?
My suggestion would be to do an audit that should be run by the D&I team to identify where this is happening and take appropriate action, be that remedial training or disciplinary.
What? Wait a second. Okay. The evolution of this argument, my hands are together. I'm not a religious man, but I am praying that this guy is a Poe. I'm hoping that he is just an absolute satirist, because that would make a lot more sense in the grand scheme of things than what he's been saying. Okay, so you started out saying that software that eliminates these factors from the resume process, and honestly, aside from maybe age, I don't even know why they'd put that in there. Like, I haven't filed a resume for a job in so long. I don't even know what they require you put on resumes these days. But aside from like social security number or other things that might indicate your age, I don't think they're allowed. And I'm happy to be corrected if we're talking about the UK, especially because this guy sounds like he's from the UK. if you can, or you're required to put your age and or race and or ethnicity and or your religion onto a resume or hiring application for any company. I that sounds a little shady on the legality side, but either way. Okay, but we're talking about names. So if you have software, as you talked about at the top of the show, that actively removes names and any other quote unquote diversity indicators, and you're just handed as the HR person someone's educational background, their work history, their skill set, maybe their references, something like that. And that's what you're given to consider when choosing people to contact in recruiting or hiring for a job. Okay. But now you want to take away those filters and you want to punish the HR people if they select candidates opposite to the discrimination that you say you're against. Okay, either I'm too drunk for this or I'm not drunk enough. I'm not quite sure which one it is.
One thing that has to be considered in addressing these issues, especially in large companies, is the candidate selection process.
Well, that's the entire point of this, isn't it? What is the candidate selection process? What are the prerequisites that you are advising be put into place in selecting candidates? Because it sure sounds like tier 1 filter is race, ethnicity, gender, whatever, and name, apparently. And that at best, merit is a secondary or tertiary consideration, depending on what we're talking about. How many levels do I have to go down before I get to someone's actual skills and abilities? But okay, yes, what is the candidate selection process?
Internal recruiters are usually the first people to screen candidates. Not always, but for any significantly sized company, it typically will be. Internal recruiters have an unbelievably time-intensive job where they are almost always stretched beyond capacity.
I guess it depends on the company, depends on how many people you're recruiting and so on. Okay, all right. I'll stipulate they are taxed for time and energy. And what? That is a green light to discriminating people on the lowest common denominators? That's an okay for laziness in your decision-making process?
When they receive 200 to 300 applicants per role, and they may be working on 20 to 50 roles at any given time, they're not always getting through all of the applicants.
Oh, okay. So you're just looking out for the sanity and the well-being and the mental health of the HR supervisors. Oh, okay. So all of this is really just, you're just showing your compassion. That's what this is. Okay.
Often they'll skim through the first 20 to 50 candidates, select 3 or 4, send them on to the hiring manager, and then on to the next role. If they're only seeing 10% of the applicants, it's not obvious that the list will be proportionally representative of the whole group of candidates.
Proportionately, based on what? If you've removed all the factors that would otherwise trigger someone's unconscious bias, such as gender, or race, or ethnicity, or age, or religion, or orientation, or disability, whatever. If you remove those, proportional to what? Proportional to the number of candidates? How much fairer can you get than that? If you're assessing people simply on their education, their skill set, their work experience, and so on. Well, okay, well, that's a problem apparently.
What is certain is that not enough diverse candidates will be in that 10%.
Right. Because again, diversity and merit are two entirely separate things, unrelated one to another. I said it before, I'll say it again. I appreciate his candor. I appreciate his clarity. Even though he is effectively indicting himself in the process At least he's being honest.
as they're already statistically underrepresented. So the representation needs to change by forcing more diverse candidates into that initial group that will be seen. And the only way to do this is by knowing who the diversity candidates are in the first place.
Please tell me this guy is a Poe. Please tell me, because if, again, he's brilliant if he is, because he is underlining the exact problem with DEI. He is highlighting it with the most, brightest neon marker. What is at the core of the DEI process, whether it's in the UK, US, or otherwise. If he's not a Poe, he is up there. This guy is up there with that Accenture video I did, 5 years ago now, 4 years ago now? I think it was called Unfiltered Diversity or something. It was the first time in my YouTube channel's history at that point where I'd looked at a speaker who made no bones about what they meant when it came to the diversity and inclusion process. If this guy is not a Poe, this is, I swear to God, this is Exhibit A in any kind of civil rights lawsuit against a company who is employing this guy or who is accepting and adopting his advice in their hiring practices. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
If discrimination is to be dealt with at the resume stage, redacting any race or gender indicators is not the way to do it.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, you tell me, dude. What is the way to do it?
That's a proverbial band-aid on the knee for a punctured lung. Can we control our unconscious bias, or alternatively, is it a more achievable goal to manage our conscious thoughts in order to better control a process?
I don't know. At this point, I am so lost in your convoluted, backwards logic on the subject. Educate me more, please. I still have like 1/4 of a drink of pepper jack left to go.
I believe we have to focus on what the Nobel Prize laureate Daniel Kahneman calls our system 2 thinking, which he describes as the conscious reasoning self that has beliefs, makes choices, and decides what to think about and do. This contrasts with system 1 thinking, which is our unconscious thinking.
I don't know.
In doing so, if we are to use technology to reduce resume bias at all, instead of making it a blind resume process that only results in any prejudices once again emerging in the interview process, let's use technology in a different way.
Okay.
In the example of the 200 applicants, candidates with any diversity indicators should be highlighted and prioritized in the list, and recruiters must consider them based on merit and skill set.
No. Okay. I love this guy. Whether he's legit or he's a satirist, I love this guy. If your first consideration is diversity indicators and your second consideration is merits and skill set, you're violating the law. Okay, I don't care if you're talking about the United States or you're talking about the United Kingdom. You are violating established law. If you are taking into consideration someone's race or gender or orientation, ethnicity, religion, disability, age, whatever, if you're filtering on the basis of any of those elements, you are breaking the law. It doesn't matter whether it takes place at the front of the hiring process or at the very end of the hiring process. At whatever point in the hiring process you are considering those things or filtering candidates on the basis of those things, you are breaking the law. So either this guy, again, is undercutting and satirizing the DEI apparatus in this world at this point, or he's just laying it bare as to how it works. or both. So if this guy's actually an advisor, again, just as a double check, I didn't do any research on who this guy is. I didn't do any research on who he represents. I'm just looking at it plainly as the message being presented by the individual. And depending on where he is situated or who he's working with or whatever, maybe he's not violating the law wherever he is. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But if anything about what he's saying were to be adopted or practiced by any American company or interest, it would be a clear-cut, outright violation of civil rights law. I just want to give that preamble because like I say, I gotta cover myself on the off chance that this guy comes back at me or something else. But man, this is amazing. This is amazing. I don't usually hear this kind of candor about the subject of diversity and inclusion practices in hiring. Don't usually.
They must also be rejected based on merit and skill set.
What? Wait. Let's back up. Back up a little bit. Sorry. I gotta make sure.
And emerging in the interview process, let's use technology in a different way. In the example of the 200 applicants, candidates with any diversity indicators should be highlighted and prioritized in the list, and recruiters must consider them based on merit and skill set.
Yes.
They must also be rejected based on merit and skill set.
Well, yeah, again, after you've already put the first filter as diversity indicators, right? And then you put your second filter on, well, now that we've excluded a whole swath of people on the basis of what they look like or what they are, what remains, then we can start filtering on the basis of merit and skill set. Right? I mean, of the people that we have in the resulting pool, once we filtered for race or gender or orientation or disability or age or whatever, then we can assess the quality of the candidates that remain after we've filtered them out on the basis of things that have nothing to do with merit or skill set. Yes, that would make sense. That does make sense because ultimately you want to have the best candidate, the best candidate of the demographics that you filtered for.
Some may say, well, that's not fair on the other candidates. Well, we cannot unfortunately have both a meritocracy and a pro-diversity agenda that operate at the same time. You either have one or the other.
Okay. I'm sure somebody in the chat has already looked this guy up, right? I really, if this guy is not legitimate in the sense that he's not actually a diversity consultant or some kind of business coach or something else, if he is a Poe, if he is a satirist, I would love to talk to this guy directly. Well, hell, I'd love to talk to him even if he isn't a satirist. Because if he's not a satirist, he is as honest and as candid about this entire process as anybody that I've seen over the last 6 years. If he's a satirist, he is highlighting extremely effectively everything that goes on in the DEI process that DEI officers and officials and advocates never want to say out loud, but are always saying with their couch language and their dodging terms. So I really hope this is effectively performance art. I really do. Because this is, again, this is laying it bare.
A meritocracy will, of course, not exclude underrepresented candidates, but if we were to shift the needle in any significant way towards a more diverse workforce, this has to be done by design and not just by accident or with hope.
I can't believe this guy isn't a satirist. This far in and at this point, I'm going to be a broken record because that's why I want to make sure that it's clear. If this guy is not making fun of the DEI process in a completely legitimate sounding and entirely eloquent way. He is a dyed-in-the-wool zealot for DEI and knows exactly what he's doing and doesn't care.
Rather than a blind resume mandate, I believe there has to be some proactive intervention that starts with understanding who the underrepresented candidates are in the first place. The second important piece of the puzzle is to have a process audit owned by the D&I team that audits this process in the same way financial processes are audited. How do we de-risk the chances of a finance director stealing money? Do we start by assuming they're going to cook the books and therefore anonymize certain parts of the financial ledger to prevent them from committing fraud?
Well, again, assuming that this guy's being legit for the moment, you just made that same argument about somebody who's taking on a candidate for a job in person. And obviously you have to assume that their biases are going to come into play. How do you eliminate them? When you eventually have to actually meet the person. So if you don't know the person's age, ethnicity, race, gender, whatever, because of the blind resume process, and then they come into the interview room and suddenly you know all of those things. Okay, well, you're already assuming the worst of the people involved in the decision-making process.
Of course we don't.
Yeah.
What we actually do is get them to pass exams to qualify that they know what they're doing. Then the books are audited on an annual basis. They're not offended by the audit. It's part of the job.
Right.
Will there be finance directors that steal money? Well, of course there will. There will always be criminals in all walks of life.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority of finance directors want to do a good job and
Right.
act as good corporate citizens, and no doubt enjoy the satisfaction of seeing a clean audit on their work.
Please tell me this guy is a Poe. Please, please, please. I got to follow up. I got to try to contact this guy. I got to find out if he's legit. I really do. This is too perfect. This is too perfect of a takedown of the entire process. It really is.
With this potential solution, the D&I team would have access to the candidate applicant tracking system, and recruiters could have a bi-yearly or yearly audit where some roles are selected and the recruiters are asked to talk through their decisions. This would hold recruiters accountable, and for the overwhelming majority that does the right thing, this would be a welcome process to demonstrate their commitment to D&I through their actions.
Oh. Chat. Kieverdam says, wait, let me, okay. Sorry, I've been so focused on this guy. I've been looking over at the chat. Thanks to Deco, I found his website. Okay. Is he legit? Is it a complete joke? Let's see. Dr. Functional, that bigotry of low expectations shining through once more. I'm telling you what, this is why I really hope this guy's a satirist. I really, really hope this guy is a satirist. And if he's not, like, again, I say, I got to at least give credit where credit is due. He's being completely transparent about the real motivations and philosophy behind DEI. Let's see. Reality can be strange. I get it. That's why I'm not sure. And those of you that have followed me for the longest of times, you've seen me go through panel discussions and consultant videos and promotional videos. It's very hard to tell. It's very hard to tell whether this guy's being legit or not. Scrappy, I drank all the cold Dr. Pepper already, got ice. Well, I've got a couple of Dr. Peppers left, but how much whiskey do I have left? Scribeline, here's the website's about section which discusses him. Okay. Okay, let me pull that up. Bremnus. Okay, is this guy on the about section? There he is, Fraser Hill. That's him, huh? It is. Okay, I'll bring that up. I'll pull that up after the video's over with, just for some double checks.
For any that fall short of expectations and are clearly making prejudiced decisions, well, there should be a zero tolerance approach. Dealing with it in this way, we're actually fixing the problem and not just putting a Band-Aid over it.
Okay.
Those whose prejudices manifested in their candidate choices get focused training, sparing everyone else from the unwarranted guilt of the actions of the criminal few.
Whoa. Okay.
In summary, for us to improve the likelihood of positively impacting diversity at the resume selection level, we're really faced with two choices.
Yeah.
One, resume redaction software.
Right. Where it filters out elements or indicators that might contribute to unconscious or conscious bias, right?
Removes any indicators of diversity from resumes. This provides anonymous cover for the prejudiced decision makers who may be oblivious to their prejudices, and therefore this doesn't help remedy their choices.
Okay. If redaction software presumes that HR hiring managers and so on are or may or do have those prejudices inherent to them, that prevents those elements from being a part of their assessment process. Right? So it already assumes guilt or potential guilt simply in its existence and presence. Okay, so if you remove those factors from the consideration process at the front end of recruiting and hiring, that's bad. You know, if you don't have that, if you introduce those elements and you're fearful that people are just naturally prejudiced, they're going to be naturally prejudiced at any point in the process, right?
Also, we turn everyone into a suspect as a result by hiding the identity of the people we're trying to hire more of from the well-intentioned decision makers.
The kind of people we're trying to hire more of. Quota, amount, percentage, demographic.
As a result, we statistically minimize diversity candidates' chances of being seen. And besides, when they make it to the interview, no resolution has been undertaken to resolve the underlying prejudice behaviors, so there is no resolution.
So is your concern the kinds of people you're hiring or the psychological conditioning of the people who are in charge of hiring? Like, okay, for reasons that might be explicable because of, I've mentioned I've been having some pepper jacks, I need to take a moment, a brief break. I'll be right back after after no messages, just me muting my mic for a minute. Okay, so those of you watching in the future, you can scan forward the couple of minutes it's going to take when you see this image. Okay, I'm back. I put that standby thing in my options for a reason. Okay, now that I am refreshed. Where were we again? You're trying to change the psychology, the presumed prejudice of your hiring managers?
Option 2, make diversity candidates known and audit the process.
Yeah, make them known, again, by being prejudicial in your selection process. Yeah?
Firstly, use an ATS that sorts candidates by diversity indicators and make sure those candidates are at least considered.
Uh-huh.
Then create a hiring audit plan owned by the D&I team where roles are randomly selected to talk through the decision makers' candidate choices.
Oh.
Those who pass the audit get to celebrate their clear commitment to diversity. Those who fall short get trained or fired, and over time, in theory, we will be in a healthier place than if we were just covering up for the prejudiced decision makers.
Please tell me this guy is a pope. Please tell me he's a satirist. This is too much. This is too much. He is lampooning the entire process. Oh my gosh.
So what do you think? What would your choice be?
The CEO's greatest asset, the art and science of landing leaders. This seems too complex to be a joke. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up the website that Keeverdam found in relation to what Decode found. Okay. So this is apparently the guy's website. Okay. Let's get down here. That's the guy. That's his picture. Our founder, Fraser Hill, spent 20 years working all over the world in executive search and leadership advisory. Okay. On his travels, whether it was working for a Fortune 500 or a high-growth startup, he observed the same candidate selection process, different interviewers asking different questions with different agendas and different biases. Well, I mean, if you're running a particular business in a particular industry, you're going to have particular things you're looking for. Okay. Competency behavioral interviews became popular where candidates can handpick the best examples from their career at random, which does nothing to tell the full story. I don't know if I'm drunk enough to read this. The then AI gamification of psychometric tests and video interviews arrived. What the fuck? What? What? Then AI gamification and of psychometric tests and video interviews arrived. He thought that moving a poor interview process onto video doesn't solve the issue of poor interview structure. What? In 2012, he embarked on an 8-year research project that included over 1,700 executive leader interviews and culminated in the publication of a 250-page book in 2021, The CEO's Greatest Asset, The Art and Science of Landing Leaders. In this book, Fraser breaks down what we know about the last 100 years of behavioral science, everything that is completely wrong with interviews, and then goes on to propose a completely new interview methodology that formed the basis of the Bremnes methodology. We can conduct assessments on your behalf, or you can purchase licenses for our software. Interview? What? Interview, where you will find on-demand training and all the tools you need to deploy and manage the Bremnes interview method. I am I am flabbergasted. I am confounded. Okay, this is under solutions. More similar than diverse. We are not as different as we claim to be, but we are all unique. Understanding what is unique about us and how this translates into the optimal workplace is the focus of our work. We advise on organizational strategies to optimize the people mix in a company to achieve its objectives. This includes internal and external people assessment to help identify skills or people gaps. Again, separating out these things, skills or people gaps that need to be filled in the short, medium, and long term. Using our proprietary selection methodology and software, we work with leadership teams to help them make much clearer decisions on who they promote and hire. We are an impartial leadership assessment firm that utilizes our proprietary methodology and research to help de-risk experienced hiring. Oh, traits. Okay. Thinking on a score of weak, neutral, evident, strong, or very strong. Thinking, curiosity, imagination, intuition, motivation, integrity, consistency, courage. You can measure courage. You can measure integrity. You can measure inspiring. What is going on here? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kieverdam. Oh, you missed Keldrick. I did? Oh, I'm sorry. Keldrick, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I apologize. Chat got away from me. I was off somewhere else. That's why. You cannot hire with prejudice. If you do not have a means of judging someone based on your prejudice, removing diversity indicators would make things more equal, not less. Exactly. I mean, if you assume for the sake of liability and just human nature that there are certain elements to an individual that could be used both morally and most especially legally as a filtration process on the part of a human being when hiring someone, if you remove those and you leave them only with the bare essentials of what is necessary for assessing someone's quality for the job that is open, well, that's all you need. But apparently, unless I'm shown otherwise, our speaker is advocating for and has built a business around saying no. You need to consider those things to achieve diversity, because obviously diversity has nothing to do with merit. Derek, thank you again. Thanks for the dono, Kelrig. Well, thank you, Derek. And thank you, Kelrig, again. And thank you guys again for your generosity. I do not have the words to tell you how much I appreciate it. The poverty of my vocabulary. I would love to know how this guy assesses someone's inspirational quotient or their courage in quotient or their intuition. Succession. Succession is the development of all talent in the company. We work with companies to identify and nurture talent from early on to cultivate a diverse range of potential successors for all leadership roles. We can do this on your behalf or give you the tools and training to do it yourselves. We can conduct assessments on your behalf, or you can purchase licenses for our software, ExtraView, where you will find on-demand training and all the tools you need to deploy and manage the Bremnes interview method. Okay, just because I'm curious, is the Bremnes method. I'm just looking up Bremnes method separately. Bremnes, Leadership Assessment and Advisory Solutions. It's just your website. That's all it is. I mean, has this been vetted by any other entity, or is it just you guys? People are the only USP. Extraview, Bremnes LLC trademark registration. Okay, well, if this guy is some kind of some kind of activist, he's gone above and beyond the efforts necessary to do so, because he's got a trademark registered. He's actually registered. He's registered in Las Vegas. Extraview. Hold on. Let me bring this up. This is from the, what is this? The USPTO Patent Trademark Office, I think. Hold on. I'm inadvertently doing an investigation. Extraview. Remember, his Extraview software. You just talked about that. Trademark registration is intended to cover the category of software as a service, featuring software for interviewing candidates, live application, website, yeah, Bremnes.com. Okay. International class, filed use, timeline, application filed 2021, April 22nd. Address is in Nevada, United States. Okay, so this guy is based in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, so our speaker, even though he might not originate from America, at least, again, just assuming, and it was an assumption, on accent, he's operating in America. This software, this company is based in America. And he has just argued for and advocated the use of race, age, ethnicity, whatever, as the first filter for hiring practices in companies. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. I didn't anticipate I'd be doing a quasi-investigative review of this company / person, but there you are. Again, as a predicate to this all, I am not a lawyer. I am not a civil rights law expert. I know only the basic tenets of civil rights law in the United States based on the first, establishing clauses of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VI, Title VII, depending on what we're talking about, education or business in general. And just on top of that, just the principles that I was raised with. And what this guy is saying, apparently, unironically, and what he conceivably is advising businesses to do, seems to fly directly in the face of all of that. And at least as far as I can tell, granted that this information is accurate, he's operating in the United States and thus falls under United States federal laws. I don't know if simply advocating for these things constitutes some kind of violation. I think it really has to do with actually enacting these things. But, yeah. Okay. Ambush Saturday stream on something that caught my brain, and here we are, following down the rabbit hole, the whole thing. I'll take a minute for you guys if you have anything you want to say otherwise, and then I'm going to sign off and recuperate and decide what I'm going to do for Sunday's stream, because I have no idea. Scanner Daffley, I wonder if his software suggests asking applicants if they are or plan to get pregnant. Well, I mean, might as well. At this point, he's knocked down all the other barriers or all the other considerations you might otherwise think not to do on the basis of legality or propriety. Ryan R., we should get some lawyers in the CB. And it starts soon as CB? I don't know. I think CB radio. I'm sure you mean something else, Ryan. But I don't know. Scrappy, so he's telling people to violate people's civil rights, call the DOJ. I mean, telling people to violate civil rights, that falls, I assume, unless you can like prove incitement or something, in free speech, right? My question is, are there any companies who have employed this guy's services or are currently using his software or who are implementing his philosophy in their hiring practices? That's really the test. That's really the question. I mean, you can spout off all the crazy nonsense you want. But really what it comes down to, is there an established company or companies or organizations or otherwise who have hired this guy, and most especially, have they enacted anything close to what he's been suggesting in his promotional video? And if so, again, not a lawyer, can't say for certain, but it sure sounds to me like something that's not quite legit might in fact violate federal law on its face. So, I don't know. CB at equals chat. Oh, okay. Sorry, I obviously misunderstood. We need to get some lawyers. You know what I need? I need a lawyer dog. I need a lawyer dog. Oh my gosh. Guys, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say afterwards. Asan, what are your views, I'm assuming, on true crime virtual YouTubers? Virtual YouTubers? I don't know what that means. True crime virtual YouTubers. Okay, I'm too curious to wrap up before I know what you mean. What do you give me an example? Is there a YouTube channel you can name, or what does that mean, or define that better? I got a lot of opinions on true crime. I still, and I can't get too explicit about it because there's a lot of things going on in the background, but the second edition of Living on Borrowed Crime is still in play, for those of you that remember seeing the first one. Doing these has come down to, can I arrange a time where various true crime YouTube content creators all have the same free time across multiple time zones, etc. I am on the verge, in relative terms, of having a second episode with a different cast of celebrities, let's say in the true crime sphere. So I'm working on it. I haven't talked about it much because I can't give a definite date, but it's still being worked on. Asan, people who use animated avatars instead of their real face and body. Oh. I can't say I've seen many of those. Most of the true crime content creators I watch are just either, voices, sort of doing narration, like True Crime Atlas, or Stranger Stories, or Explore With Us, or Red Tree Crime, or people who show their face on camera, like That Chapter, Mike O at That Chapter, or Dire Trip. If you guys haven't seen Dire Trip, go check out Dire Trip. So I haven't seen many sort of anime avatar true crimers. None come to mind. Let me put it that way. Thank you, Matt Barnes. My question is, does this guy need to couch and hide his agenda being in the UK? While not that vastly different legally to the United States, it is different, I'm sure, in terms of workplace law. Well, again, I don't know where this guy is based specifically, but his website and the product, the software apparently that he's promoting on his website, is a limited liability company in the United States, in Las Vegas. So whether he is quasi-based in both places, the United States and the UK, he's still operating in the United States. So if this is what he's advocating for, if this is what his software is somehow servicing to companies, it still falls under the legal jurisdiction of the United States and consequently federal law. But simply creating this software, I don't know. Again, I am not a lawyer. It's one thing to just advocate for something that is questionable and or ridiculous. The other thing, the real consideration is, are there companies or entities who have implemented his software or his belief system or his process? Are there companies that are discriminating against individuals and potential hires based on his philosophy or employing his software to make those decisions? That's where the rubber meets the proverbial road. As far as I know, being a total non-legally educated layman English major, if I can give any more exceptions to that. So anyway, everybody, I'm going to stop here because I'm just going to end up babbling forever if I don't stop myself consciously now. And we're coming up on an hour and a half, which is usually my cutoff point for these things. Thank you guys all for joining me on this one, because this went into places that I had not expected. And I think I'll have to follow up again in the future when I have a clearer head about the whole thing. If you'd like to hear more from me, conceivably, I should be here tomorrow morning, Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream, where I'll go over a topic. I have absolutely no idea what it'll be as of right now, but we'll find out together tomorrow, probably, or earlier, because I'll have to advertise it ahead of time. Beyond that, if you'd like to see more from me, you can find me here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I will once again review an off-brand TED Talk for fungimentation and intelligication. I call it fungimentation. Everyone, thank you for joining me for this decidedly inebriated Saturday ambush stream. I hope you all are well. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do aside from all the bots that have cropped up in the last few minutes. Everybody who donated, as I said before, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. And as much as it matters, if it does, I really do understand the value of what you're passing on to me. And I do my best to pay it forward in deed and otherwise as things go on. I'm going to stop here before I ramble anymore in a slightly drunken fashion. Everyone, again, thank you for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your Saturday. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I hope to see you tomorrow morning, Sunday. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.